Dear colleagues, we have been operating with the understanding that the package of the proposed amendments resulting from the work of this group would be finalized by January 2024 to meet the 4-month deadline stated in Article 55. However, we believe that we all share the same sentiment that realistically, the whole package of amendments will probably not be ready by January 2024. We would like to ask the Secretariat whether procedurally we could continue working until the 76th World Health Assembly in May 2024. I'd like to ask the Secretariat to provide some guidance in this matter.
Thank you, Co-Chair. The Health Assembly, in decision WHA 75-9, requested the working group, and I quote, to establish a program of work consistent with decision EB 153 and taking into consideration the report of the IHR Review Committee to propose a package of targeted amendments for consideration by the 77th World Health Assembly in accordance with Article 55 of the International Health Regulations, close quote. Article 55 of the IHR, which is referred to in Decision 75-9, sets out 2 procedural requirements relating to proposed amendments. The first one is that, quote, proposals for amendments shall be submitted to the Health Assembly for its consideration, close quote. The second one is that, open quote, the text of any such proposed amendment shall be communicated to all states parties by the Director General at least 4 months before the Health Assembly at which it is proposed for consideration, close quote. Again, that's the text of the relevant article of the IHR, Article 55. Article 55 of the IHR, including this 4-month requirement, has never been applied to amendments submitted collectively by a subdivision of the Health Assembly, which is exactly what the WGIHR is. The WGIHR is a subdivision of the Health Assembly under Rule 41 of the Rules of Procedure of the Health Assembly. Thus, there are no precedents to rely on with respect to the manner in which the 4-month requirement set out in Article 55 should be satisfied. That is to say, Article 55 has been applied to amendments proposed by a state party or by the Director General, but never by a subdivision of the Health Assembly. Indeed, it has only been applied with respect to, it has not been applied with respect to any subdivision. This is a first. Accordingly, an option for consideration by the working group would be for the Director General to communicate in January 2023 the following documents to all states parties. First, the proposed amendments as originally submitted by member states and already communicated by the Secretariat to all states parties by email. And second, the proposed amendments as they might be shown on the screen at the closure of WGIHR 6. This approach would allow work to continue in the WGIHR, if necessary, up until the 77th Health Assembly itself, recognizing the importance of complementarity with the INB process, which, as we know, is mandated to work up until the 77th WHA. In addition to that, the working group may consider requesting the Secretariat to include in the January communication from the Director General a clarification according to which the amendments from the final session of the WGIHR, which could be conceivably as late as May 2024, if necessary, would allow these final results of such a session to be formally submitted to the 77th World Health Assembly. A note on this deadline of the 77th World Health Assembly. If the deadline is not met, the WGIHR would be expected to report to the Health Assembly in May 2024 that agreement could not be reached on the proposed amendments. This deadline cannot be changed as it was set out in decision WHA 75-9. This approach just outlined for your consideration would fulfill the 4-month requirement in its purpose as prescribed by Article 55 of the IHR, while at the same time allowing the working group to continue its consideration and negotiation of the proposed amendments, including possible modifications to the package that would be communicated to states parties. Should this approach be considered satisfactory, the working group may wish to consider reflecting it in the report of this session of the WGIHR. Thank you, co-chairs.
Thank you very much, Steve, for this procedural insights. So the deadline is standing as it is. It is a deadline, so I mean, the May 24th, we have to report back, preferably on the finalized text of the amendments. And we will procedurally have to continue working on the revised, on the proposed amendments until the deadline is there. So with this in mind, I would like to open the floor to member states and other stakeholders to share their comments or questions. Thank you very much, Monaco. The floor now is for India.
Thank you, Co-Chair, and thanks to the Legal Counsel for explaining the proposed way forward. But if I can ask the Legal Counsel to maybe reiterate once again, just for clarity, what will be the entire suite of amendments which would be transmitted to the EB or to the WHA? What is the package, so to say? Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to give the floor to the Secretariat to respond to the question from India.
Thank you, Co-Chair, and I thank the distinguished delegate of India with respect to clarification on certain aspects of what is considerations for a possible approach, but it is not a Secretariat proposal. Just to be clear, this is a possible approach for the consideration of the working group. But very specifically...
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much to the Legal Counsel for clarifying that. I'm just trying to read the room and understand that nobody wants me to be a process wonk right now. So I'll be happy to have a chat separately with Steve on the two possible ways forward, which we may want to discuss at the end of the meeting. So thank you so much, Chair, and Steve, I will look out for me. Thanks.
Good luck, Steve.